The sea had been stormy the day before, leftovers from the thunderous black clouds of Saturday night. No matter how much he encouraged, the sailor took their time, sailing across the expansive sea from the tiny port town named Port Town, along the coast to the Thornberry's Manor. Dawn broke as the ship grew close to the island, so far away from civilization. The purple devil's tail twitched as they got closer to the dock, his patience growing thin as he leapt to the wood and rolled to his feet. Gille Trebble looked up to the manor, gripping his hands together tight before releasing them. He was going to find them, even if it, well, meant getting on the bad side of a couple of rich people. Hello, everyone. I'm Heartless. And in case you didn't notice from me doing that really tense, cold opening, I'm playing Gille Trebble, and I'm joined by my lovely friend.
It's me, AudioVizual, your local Toonkind bootleg Blair. Um, Today I will be playing Bon, and potentially a few other people. And man, this is gonna be a thing. This is lots of emotions, probably, almost certainly with that the angst of the emotions and everything that's happened. Because neither of these two are having a great time. So if you want, I can describe the scene for Gil if you so desire.
Yes, I would like that very much. He's going to start walking up the dock towards the manor.
So Thornberry Manor dominates the island. Closer to the dock and the sea, the area is not so trimmed back, closer to being a little wild, but very, very soon after, it seems to make way for the sort of carefully trimmed lawn by someone who has money to throw at that sort of thing. Even though the storms from the night has sort of tossed and turned a few things. There's a few smaller houses off in the distance. A sort of short run from the main house, but it's clear that the Thornberry Manor is the biggest one of them all. The fancy wood and brick and stone and glass seems to loom. It's if I had to hazard a guess, it's a sort of like a you don't want to be anywhere near anyone's sort of rich house if you aren't stealing from it.
Yeah, considering, well, uh, how he grew up. And also the multiple crimes he's responsible for. Being near any rich person's house and being seen is not something that Gil's thrilled about, but it's the largest house, and, well, they would know where Bon is if Bon is here. And in fact, actually, as Gil gets closer to the front door, he's going to I gotta roll a d10 because he's gonna reach into his pocket Oh, that's a 1. Oh, here we go, fumble time. See what he gets. It's a 10. So what happens is he reaches into his pocket with this, like, his look on his face, and he pulls out a fat black cat that goes, wow, and he immediately screeches at the top of his lungs and throws Tibbles to the side.
Goodness.
Yeesh.
Presumably the cat goes sailing into the undergrowth of some bush that lines the drive.
Yup. And Psychopomp, who did appear right next to him when he did that, goes, Gille just, shut up. He's gonna reach into his pocket again. Oop. That's a 3.
God. We're like, yeah, it's gonna be angsty, and then Gil promptly fumbles 4 times like a dumbass. It's still gonna be angsty, but...
That's a 20. So, Gil, kind of what he was looking for, pulls out a large cake with very fancy frosting on it.
Happy birthday!
And Psychopomp tilts over Gil's shoulder, goes, "Is that for me?" And Gil's like, "No." Puts it back into his hammer's face. One more time. Ah, yes, a 7. Good. So Gil pulls out, let's see, yeah, the shield that Bob made for him with Psychopomp's face on it. And he casts Locate Object for Bond's bag.
Bond's bag.
Mm-hmm.
I have to decide between it being at 2 places.
Mm-hmm.
So Bond's bag is on the premises. It's presumably in the building.
All right.
It's up fairly high, presumably on a 2nd or 3rd floor.
Hmm. Is it moving?
No.
Okay. So with that piece of information, Gil dashes away the shield back into his pocket and walks up to the door and puts on his best lying face. Let's see how this is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 12 plus 7. And he knocks on the door.
So you have to wait a minute. Presumably a very annoying minute. Because it's a big house. And you're waiting for a minute. You're growing more and more and more and more and more frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
When the door opens and someone who is very, very tall, taller than Bon, dripping water on the nice floor, opens the door, and it looks to be some sort of real kind elf wearing a sort of loosely termed bathing suit, closer to sort of like the more old-timey ones where it covers a lot. And they have like a towel around their shoulders, and it kind of is half into their dark blue hair as they're toweling off their damp hair, and they look down at you, Gille, and they go, "Oh, hello, you're not one of the authorities."
No, I'm not. Hi. Sorry if I'm interrupting anything, but I'm looking for a very, very great friend of mine. Their name is Bon Arlo. Are they here?
Okay, I have to have her roll now. So that's a... That's a 13.
What's that?
It's an insight
that
roll.
He is not lying. Definitely not.
They...
Seems very genuine.
Seems very genuine. They kind of look at you for a moment and look you over. And then I burp. And look you over and look you over.
And Gille's not wearing his armor, so he's got a gray turtleneck on and gray pants. And he's got Halloween themed jewelry hanging from his horns. And his tail is poised, just so.
Blair, because audience would know it's Blair, considering this is coming off of Bloody Thorns. Blair kind of looks Gille over, and sort of like, it's not directly recognition of you, because that was a history, because I'm rolling actual dice. And they look at you, and there's sort of a flicker of recognition, but it's not, with a 10. It's not specifically of anything about you. And they're like, Bon, are you one of Bon's co-workers at, where isn't they work? That charming little studio.
You could say that. My brother works at the studio with them.
And Blair kind of looks back inside. And because Blair's so tall and you're so short, you don't really get any sort of idea of what they're looking at, unfortunately. And they're like, well, unfortunately, Bon is, indisposed at the moment.
Are they... do they need any sort of help? I do have a small amount of medical training.
Blair kind of waves you off, and is like, well, not necessarily. I mean, if you've come all the way out here, it'd be terribly rude to refuse you, although Howl will be in such fit. and Blair kind of opens the door a little wider. Why don't you go find the sitting room, and I will go see about preparing us some tea. I'm sure you can find your way around.
Of course. Thank you very much. Oh, excuse me, I haven't caught your name. My name is Gille Sweet. What's yours?
Um, Blair gives you an angelic smile, and just simply says, "Well, thankfully, I didn't give it. I hope you find exactly what you're looking for, darling sweet. And I have to go use the other kitchen in one of the other buildings, if you'll excuse me."
Of
And
course.
she kind of slips around you and leaves the tall door open for you to shut behind you.
Yep, and Gil walks inside and shuts the door. And so the since still have locate object on, Gil, oh, let's try some stealth.
Yeah, try is the key word here.
Well, he doesn't have proficiency in it, but he's not wearing his armor.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, yes, that's a 5.
Here's the thing, unfortunately. You probably walked right through the puddle that Blair left behind, so like your shoes are squeaking.
Yeah. And Gil, not going to the sitting room, is going to attempt to go up the stairs because that's where Bond's bag is.
Mm-hmm.
And his idea is find the bag, find Bond.
Amazing. Um, so once you get up these sort of grand, almost spiral-esque staircases,
Mhm.
there's a hallway to your left, a set of grand doors that are cracked open ahead of you, and Bond's bag is down the hallway to the right. And there is a
Mhm.
door at the very end of the hallway open, and faintly you can hear voices.
So instead of barging in, he's going to try to sneak up to the door and listen.
Does that involve rolling stealth again?
Yeah, I can roll stealth again.
I mean, that's a 5. I feel like at some point he would actually pause and like try and wipe his shoes off so he stops squeaking everywhere.
That's a little better.
Um, it's an old house. It's
Mhm.
got creakies. You know nothing.
And Gil hits every single creaky floorboard along the way.
By the end of it, like, you can hear someone with a very gruff, masculine voice grousing about how this house is so fucking noisy and, it's a pain in the ass to even try and take a nap anywhere, and da-di-da-di-da, and there's rustling. And very quietly, you hear Bon sort of tiredly laugh.
Gil is going to pause outside the door.
Is he
I'm gonna roll
standing?
deception. He's not standing where you could see him through the door.
Mm-hmm.
He's like standing right before the door frame.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna roll deception again.
Amazing.
Oh wow.
A 25.
All right, so hearing the voices, they probably all heard. Going to his tail's gonna flick, and he's going to very slowly step forward, knock on the door, and go, hello.
So, I'm gonna go ahead and describe what Gille sees.
Mm-hmm. Sorry if I'm
So,
intruding.
so it looks like a guest room that someone has sort of converted, loosely termed, where the bed's been pulled away from where it was presumably tucked against the wall and closer to the middle of the room. And all of the furniture's been kind of shuffled around from that sort of general bedroom aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
And sitting on the bed, facing the doorway, is Bon. And in front of them is a fairly decently tall, real-kind tiefling,
Mm-hmm.
whose own tail is kind of lashing about. And there's a table beside the bed, and Bon's bag is there. And the tiefling has clearly been rifling through it. He has sort of a roll of bandages in one hand and a set of the tiny, like, medical scissors in the other. And he just has a very sort of stiff, grouchy looking pose about him. But you can't see his face or his front at all. But
Mm-hmm.
Bon, hearing your voice, leans around him, and you can see them.
Oh, sorry for barging in.
I'm gonna have Bon roll a thing. Gonna have Bon roll a thing.
If it's insight, I give Bon advantage because Spawn knows what gray means.
No, it's a whiz save.
Oh. Welp.
Thankfully they got a 14. So Bon sees you and hears your voice, and they simultaneously look unsurprised to see you and also just shocked stock still. Kind of like their front is hidden by this tiefling who is beginning to turn around so he can glare at you. And they're not wearing a shirt, but thankfully anything there is covered up by, again, the very angry, real kind tiefling between the two of you.
Yeah.
And Bond just very quietly says, Gille?
Oh, I thought I should come by. Hello, if I could guess at anything, you must be Howl, Gil says as he steps into the room and smiles up at the tiefling.
Said tiefling kind of brandishes these tiny medical scissors at you, Gil. And, he's just like, and what are you doing here?
Oh, I'm here to see Bon, of course. What? Did they not tell you about me?
He looks at Bon with a very unimpressed look, And Bon is like half hiding behind Howl, half looking around Howl at you. Not even really super paying attention to Howl. And Howl kind of turns back at you and gives you the stink eye, Gille.
The name's Gille Sweet, and I'd like to speak to Bon, please.
Alright, time for Howl to roll a thing. Me lovingly makes characters roll things. So this is for history. Does he know anything about a Gille Trebble, mayhaps?
Oh, with a 14, so he's probably seen a couple of the outdated posters for Gille Trebble. And this purple devil looks very, very similar.
And then he rolled a 21 on insight.
That does not beat a 25.
No, it doesn't, but I would hope it would give him at least something.
So, I do say that, so the Gil seems cheery and personable, and he's definitely here to talk to Bon. And it's as Hell's been watching him, Gil's eyes have flicked over towards Bon a couple of times.
Hell just kind of starts muttering under his breath in Infernal. It's a lot of curse words.
Gil can't understand that.
Yeah, so he's just muttering in like tongues, capital T tongues. And he looks back at Bon and kind of like, Gil, you can see him give them a very appraising look. And Bon kind of seems to have a realization and kind of like shift to hide their front a little more in front of Howl, so it's more hidden from you. And Howl kind of jerks his thumb back at Gil and he's like, "Are you sure this is one of your kids?" And Bon just kind of makes a few whistling noises at him.
Hey, a halo appears over Gil. He looks
held
so
up by
innocent.
those devil horns. And Howl actually takes sort of a half a step back and looks Bon's front up and down where you can't see. And kind of, I'm gonna make you roll stealth. What's your stealth modifier? Because that's a 9. Oh, it's an 11. What's Gil's passive?
Gil's passive is 8.
Okay.
His passive perception is 8.
Okay, so Hal says something to Bon that you don't catch, and Bon kind of, you see them try to like rustle their feathers like they normally do, and then they kind of stop with a wince and like forcibly relax a little. And Hal just says something else, and Bon kind of just looks very hesitant and then shakes their head and Howl kind of puts the roll of bandages and scissors aside. And I don't know if has Gille been trying to peek around to see?
Yeah, I'll roll perception.
I was gonna say.
Trying to subtly, apparently, no, he does not, because that's a 5.
Goodness.
It's a 6 total.
Goodness gracious sakes alive. Bless his heart. Bless you, heart. It's I would say though it's pretty clear that Howl is hiding something on or something to do with Bond from your view. But he packs up Bond's bag a little and kind of fiddles with a few things, and then he hands Bond this sort of white, loose, flowy looking shirt that you've never seen before, and kind of gives them an unimpressed look about it. And they kind of just hold the shirt up to their chest and nod at Howl. And Howl like turns around and goes and walks up beside you, Gille. So he walks to the doorway that you're standing in, at a little bit in of, and next to you on the wall, there's a sword bigger than you are tall that is leaning against the wall that Howl picks up with absolute ease and kind of slings over his shoulder, and he stares at you.
That's a nice piece of weaponry right there. Gille says, does not seem bothered at all by it.
Howl kind of gives you a sus look, and he's like, well, when you go through things like I have, just why don't we keep it to you looking at it and not having to find out what it does?
Honestly, I've already done my fair share of sparring for this week. Gille says as he kind of just slides around Howl.
Howl was kind of waiting.
Through.
Yeah, Howl was kind of waiting for Gille to move out of the way. And he kind of leaves, and you hear him and he was wearing like these weird boots, and that they kind of clinked and clanked as he walked. You hear him clink and clank a little further down the hallway, and you hear him like the creak of leather as he kind of clearly seems to set up post, probably at one of the staircases.
Gille is going to close the door. And then turn to Bond. And the smile doesn't drop completely, but Gille looks tired. And he switches to primordial because yeah. And Gille goes, Bond, are you okay?
Bond is holding a shirt over their chest, and even around it you can see there are bandages wrapped around their torso. And Bond Bon also looks tired. And you see them just kind of deflate a little as Gille lets his mask slide off some. And they very carefully shift one of their wings. The one on their left, or one on their right, Gille's left. And they gingerly kind of pat the bed.
Gille is going to move forward and sit down on the bed beside them.
Mm-hmm. Bon.
Take a moment to speak, because his eyes are just studying those bandages.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I should roll perception, because I said he was studying something with his eyes.
Mm-hmm. Or investigation.
Dang it. I accidentally moved it, so I don't know what it was. You just roll a different one. It doesn't matter if I do perception or investigation. 3 will not get me anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, thankfully they look fairly clean. There's no sign of blood anywhere. So that's a small mercy, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Bon kind of rests their wing more than wraps it around Gille. And just kind of leans toward him a little.
Gille turns slightly to, I guess, just provide a better way to lean on him. He's not going to hug Bon.
Mm-hmm.
One of his hands is going to reach up and press against his chest, and the other is going to very lightly touch the bandages.
Bon just gives a very soft sort of sigh. And
What happened?
Well, kiddo. And Bon kind of slowly lowers the shirt. And the bandages are covering just about all of, like, you know, where it's clear that they were hurt. But you can see, well, I'll just give it to you because it would be pretty obvious.
Yeah.
They have, like, very pale feathers on their chest. And you can see, like, the tailing ends up closer to around, like, their collarbone and their shoulder and stuff, spreading up from the bandages. They can see, these thin purple lines that look a little irritated. And Bon just goes, well, kiddo, I kinda got shot.
That's a nat 20 medicine roll.
Oh my god. Yeah, Bon says they got shot, but from the looks of it wasn't something that probably would have gone through and through. So either Bon was wearing their armor and their armor stopped it, or it was far enough away, or something like that, where Bon did not get shot through and through. Bon says they got shot, and
the purple lines definitely don't look recent.
No, they do not. And they're probably a pretty unhappily familiar shade of purple.
Gille's tail thumps against the bed, and his turtleneck turns crimson red for a moment before it goes back to being gray.
Mm-hmm.
Someone shot you. Who did it?
He's don't oh, don't do that, Bon. He's don't worry about him. He already got booked by some two-bit detective from out of town.
You winced, but there doesn't look to be any blood. Did it break some of your bones?
Bond's eyes kind of slide off to the side, and it's like there's like a bit of a Bond grin there. It's also a little pained and uncomfortable, like, yeah, Gil's been borrowing some of Bond's book, so Gil would have some information to do with Eric Hakra stuff.
Yup. No wonder
Uh,
you rolled a net 20 on this.
yeah, it's pretty clear from the way Bond's holding themselves that, something definitely got broke because they're being very careful not to move certain things too much. And they kind of just look off to the side and give another sigh, and they're just like, yeah, you know, I mean, happens whenever you have hollow bones.
Mm-hmm. Gale's going to very carefully flatten his palm against the bandages.
Mm-hmm.
And the cure wounds that he's going to cast is not going to heal the broken bones. I'm saying this now because I know consequences are very tasty. But what I would like to happen is some sort of mitigation of pain, because he is casting cure wounds.
Mm-hmm. I'm okay with that. You know, does
Little tiny bright pumpkins appear around his fingers and just sink beneath the bandages. And it smells kind of sweet, like candy.
That's adorable, first of all. Bon relaxes a little bit more. Their posture seems less stiff, and they kind of wrap their wing around you a little more, like a hug.
Mm-hmm. On why would someone want to shoot at you?
It's it's a long story. I mean, he wasn't really shooting with any intent to kill. He was just some stupid rich kid who grew up into a stupid rich asshole. and thought playing with prop guns was nice and safe, and he could make a fun, dramatic point by pointing it at me and pulling the trigger.
Should have learned that if he wasn't aiming to kill, he shouldn't aim for center mass.
You know how it is. Everybody wants to be an action movie character and all of that.
Gille sounds positively disgusted.
Bond kind of laughs a little at his disgust in sort of the tiredly fond and amused way.
Gille's fingers leave the bandages and gently brushes along one of the bright pinkish purple lines.
Bond lets him. They kind of watch him and watch him carefully as they kind of click and thread their fingers together a little in their lap. And they're like, yeah, I got left a parting gift a while back.
Didn't know the thing that Howl did left marks.
Well, you know, I don't think a lot of people knew because, you know, not a lot of people would have wanted to get on the other end of that sort of spell.
Gille's gonna pull his hand away from Bond and just like so this rich asshole is pretending to be a action character. Why?
You know, the usual sort of conspiracies and murder and yeah. Whatever Bond was really gonna say just kind of trails off before it even really starts, and they kind of just, you know, it was almost, I'm not even gonna make you roll insight. Bond's being just, and I also know, yeah, rolling, doing terrible today. I'm so sorry. Bond seemed to have started out with some sort of like usual kind of Bond dry, sort of darker humor, and then they seem to remember something, and it just, that's really what kind of kills that before it starts.
Gille just kind of looks up into Bond's face. This was your friend's Manor. Did something happen to them?
Friend is such a generous word here, Gille.
Look, there are a lot of people I call friends, and really they're really more like acquaintances. People I've known in passing, people I've talked with, people I've worked with before.
Yeah, I can get that. Yeah, it was Harley's Manor. Some things have happened in the last couple of days, and, you know, it's been a very long couple of days. Some people didn't quite make it to today. They, some people went home.
Gale slowly nods. He knows what that means.
Mm-hmm.
He pulls his hand away from his chest and he reaches up his hands and very gently wraps them around Bon, trying to avoid the bandages.
Mm-hmm. Bon turns a little, and they wrap their other wing and their arms around Gille. And they gently, my brain just supplied, they gently hug him like he's the one who's injured. And that's what they do. They gently hug Gille like he's the one who's injured.
Mm. You knew them.
Yeah. Harley is, legally dead and gone, and no one else was supposed to have anything happen. But, some of the other people who worked here, who were also involved in Harley's little machinations and stuff. They found themselves on the wrong side of the rest of the family.
Mm. Fuck, that's too familiar.
Don't worry about it. It's getting taken care of. You don't have to worry about it, Gille.
I'm not. I'm glad you're okay. At least. As okay as a few broken ribs is.
Yeah,
Kind of
something
feels
like
like you broke a
that.
few ribs.
Thanks. Bon, I'm gonna make Bon roll something because unfortunately they're doing a thing and I'm looking at them and I'm like, you want to tell him, but also you don't. Okay. Do you want to have Gil roll insight?
Yep. Let's go, -2.
I can give you advantage if you want, because they're pressed up against each other and having an emotional moment, and that was a 9 on deception, okay?
I really needed that,
Amazing.
advantage.
Yeah, with a 12, it beats the 9. Bon isn't telling you everything about what happened to them. Because you were like, yeah, you're okay. And, you know, basically, like, you know, in comparison to, you know, and there was a hesitation there.
So I have to decide whether Gil's going to cast Zone of Truth or just ask.
I like how that's your two options. It's either the extreme or, you know, what would be considered out of Gil's usual character. There's no reasonable response, apparently.
I just, the thing is Gil can be reasonable, but
He's kind of beyond reason at the moment.
So he's gonna mutter a few words in Primordial because that's how he casts his spell. And because Bond can understand that, it sounds, let's see, darkness be lit, truth be out. And there's a very distinct feeling of a cold blowing wind that turns warm and smells of roasting pumpkin seeds. And I need Bond to make me a charisma saving throw.
Does Gil need to make one?
Yes. Yes, he does. But he's going to choose to fail it.
Amazing. I almost want to make Bond fail it too. They just rolled a 13 plus 4, so... Let me double check that it's fucking Bond's sheet. Yep, it's Bond's. When did clerics have proficiency in charisma saves?
Charisma. I think it has to do with clerics tend to go up against ghosts, and charisma saves are mostly used for possession.
That's a good point. I'm gonna have them do it at disadvantage just to see, because they're very tired. Yeah, so that's a 9 plus 4.
Yeah, that fails.
Okay. Okay, so we're in the zone of truth time.
Neither of them can lie.
Amazing.
And Gille's going to look up, and so in the radius, which I'm pretty sure just fills the room, is a faint orange glow. And Psychopomp is like sitting there right behind Gille, kind of just folding his hands and smiling and being like, all right,
Here we go.
we're listening. And Gille goes, Bon, what happened? What happened? Please tell me.
Quietly and with feeling. Fuck. Oh.
Bon cannot lie.
Bon looks like they're certainly gonna try, and then they seem to realize what that odd feeling was, and yeah, they had a feeling Gille was casting a spell, but they didn't think it was going to be fucking Zone of Truth, because Gille's a chronic liar. So Bon opens their mouth and tries to lie, but it's clear it gets stuck in their throat. And they look a little surprised, a little caught out, a little proud. And they've been talking it around too. I feel like I need to say that just to like double down on that. And they're like, damn it, Gille. You know,
I can't lie either. I failed, so...
Someone as charismatic as you, I wouldn't expect it. You know, I could try and get around this by speaking in another language you don't know, but I think that would be kind of...
Psychopomp leans over and goes, you know, there are a lot of languages I know, and if you did that, I'd just tell him.
Bon wants to flip this pumpkin the bird. They're going to refrain, though.
Gille's gonna look up and finally notice Psychopomp and go, Psychopomp, go hang out with Tibbles. Psychopomp's like, fine. Just whoosh, disappears.
Sinks into the floor.
Yeah, literally.
Bon waits like a full 15 seconds before, like, just to make sure the little pumpkin bastard's gone. And they kind of twiddle their thumbs a little for a second. And God, Bon is just wanting to deflect and lie and they also want to be honest, so I'm just looking at them just like, you poor bastard, why are you making me do this? They twiddle their thumbs for a second, their claws kind of just, you know, kind of sliding against each other. And they're not looking at Gille anymore. And they're like, well, you see, the family did not like me very much, and in the wake of Harley's supposed death, one of the members, not the one who shot me, he saw fit to come and talk to me about Marcel and Sandy and about how they wanted to take care of implications of the sort of you scratch my back, I don't keep you from seeing those three ever again kind of thing. And there was this, nosy little professor Blair brought along who apparently overheard the whole thing with us talking and that conversation, and asked me if I thought you all were going to be okay. And then we kind of walked into the kitchen and found the other members of the staff. So, not exactly the best timing.
So that 9 specifically is for he pulls out what appears to be a pocket watch. And he clicks it open. And for a moment it looked like he was about to blow a gasket. But
I don't know what this watch does, so this is very threatening.
Okay, the watch allows him advantage on wisdom saving throws.
Oh my god.
So, for a moment, it looks like he's about to blow a gasket over, the fact that someone had come and threatened Vaughn, and then this professor who someone named Blair brought along had listened to their conversation, and Gille, his turtleneck is crimson red, but the when he opens the pocket watch, the scene on the pocket watch is Gille looking over at Bond and then rearranging Bond's altar when Bond isn't looking.
Oh my goodness.
And Gille just calms down. Looks up at Bond. He doesn't know what to say. Jesus Christ, Gille. He just kind of... He opens his mouth and closes it again and realizes his hubris is failing intentionally. Because now he can't lie.
Bond kind of looks at the pocket watch. They've never seen it before. They've never seen anything like that before. they haven't seen any of the others' ones either. They kind of gently lay a hand on Gille's and leans over and kind of gently rubs their face against Gille's head, kind of like his forehead and temple area.
Gille closes his eyes and kind of just leans up into that attention. And he says, I got here as quick as I could, but soonest I could get here is the morning of my birthday.
Bon just, the air kind of leaves them in this whoosh. And they close their eyes and kind of just press against Gille, and God, they feel awful now. They just take just a second and they're like, Gille, I'm an adult. You don't have to put it on yourself to come save me every time, okay?
Wanted to come save you, Bond. It happened so many times. Something bad happens and I'm not there.
Bond's got one hand on Gille's and the other one is just like gently, like, they gently kind of like reach up and like carefully cup his face, and they've got like their face still pressed against his. Tearing this bird apart. They're just, Gille, bad things are gonna happen. It's what happens in life, and I'm so glad you're here, Gille. And I'm so glad that you weren't there, because it was awful, and I'm glad you didn't have to see me having to deal with all of that, because it would have made you very upset. And even though you weren't here to save me, it's okay. You are just a very young and small Gille Trebble, and you don't need to put the weight of all of the people around you on your shoulders.
What's the use of having no powers. What's the use of it if I can't use it to protect you and to protect Sandy and Marcel and Bob? What's the use?
Bond just kind of shakes their head a little, and they're like, I don't know what the use of power is at all, Gille. You know, you can try and protect us, and we want you to be here with us, and we want you to be by our side at times, but you not being able to be here every time is not something you need to tear yourself up about. I know it's hard. Life is very hard. And I know it's scary.
Where it used to be.
Yeah. Bond kind of pulls Gille into another hug.
Gille, who has not stopped hugging Bon, is probably going to tighten his grip a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We're okay. I'm not okay. I don't want you to go home before me.
Bond kind of buries their face in Gille's hair.
It smells like a bonfire.
Gille, you can hear, especially being so pressed up against Bond, just birdsong. Like what you had heard on the telephone.
I'm going to roll performance to see if Gil can mimic it back.
Okay, go for it.
Yes, 10. 6 plus 4.
You know, it's not bad.
It's not like Gil tried to sing.
Mm-hmm. It's probably honestly some of the better attempts at singing you've ever done without any assistance from like the singing candy or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Bon, what does that mean?
Bon
You can't lie.
Yeah. Bon kind
It's up
of...
for 10 minutes.
God, the longest 10 minutes of their life at this rate. Bon just kind of melts against Gille a little. They kind of draw their wings up and around them. So if anyone were to walk in, they would just see Bon with their wings very carefully wrapped around themselves and Gille.
Mm-hmm.
Bon... Bon... Bon just kind of... The words sort of come from them slowly.
Mm-hmm.
They sing a little refrain of the stream they were doing, and they say slowly, that means, fledgling. And they sing another piece of it, and that's something along the lines of sort of what you would sing whenever you are trying to convey safety in the nest. And they sing a little more, and that's something a parent would use at the realization of sort of when the fledgling does something that the parent isn't expecting. And they sing a very familiar refrain. You've heard it a few times now. Bon sang it 2 or 3 times during your phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And Bon very slowly says, and that means, as best translated I can give you, it means I love you.
So there were tears. um and Gil just his pointy fingers kind of scrunch against where his hands were resting on Bond's probably shoulder and back.
Mm-hmm.
Love you too. Says in the quietest voice.
Bond's just. Bond just kind of like. Bond does that thing that they've been doing for quite a while to you, Gille, where they sort of just rub their face against yours and kind of. You can feel them kind of preening your hair a little, like,
Mm-hmm.
they would do. And Bond just. They sing it again. And. It's just They sing some other things in Arakakra, and you can pick out the phrases that they just explain to you in their
Mm-hmm.
song. And they are holding Gille very close and careful, and Gille, you can feel their hands shaking a little. They are also crying, by the way.
Both of them are crying and hugging. Remember that whole game where there were two characters who just cry and hug? Yeah, it's like that. um, what, um, what, what now? Um, that, Harley is dead, quotation marks.
Bond kind of pulls their face out of Gille's hair, but they have like one of their arms wrapped around him, and they kind of stick their talons in his hair to keep like preening at it.
Mm-hmm. It is certainly very, very messy in its short
Mm-hmm.
state. Like, actually, it doesn't seem like Gil's actually brushed it today.
Bond knows that Gille will obsessively brush his hair at times.
Mm-hmm. And it's, it, I'm trying to explain. It's like the feeling like you've taken an accidental dip in the ocean and then you didn't like wash your hair afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Bond is very carefully preening his hair now. And they kind of hem and haw at the question. And they're like, well, according to Harley's will, I get everything.
wonder those rat-faced bastards were after you.
Yeah, something like that. So, all of Harley's stuff is now my stuff. All of Harley's shit is my shit. All of Harley's problems are now my problems, depending on who you ask. I'm not too interested in any of this. You know, maybe a bigger apartment, because I've had several people complaining about my back getting ruined by how tiny of an apartment I have. But also, it's my apartment and it's my rules, you know? I don't need a big fancy mansion that takes forever to get to and from, and you know.
I think if I wasn't pushing Stoffeles so hard, I probably would have taken me 3 days to get here.
Yeah, something like that.
You don't have to move out of your apartment. You could just make it bigger. That's what we did with Marcel's.
You've got me there, kiddo. I might as well keep the fancy manor on the island in case I have any stray villains who need a place to hang out that isn't in Toontown or around Toontown for a while, because, you know, the police are after him and he's wanted.
It hasn't bothered me as much after I cut my hair, so
Bond kind of wiggles their talons very lightly in where they're preening Gille's hair, and they're like, "It's a good look on you."
keep forgetting that my hair isn't so heavy and hurting my neck.
Goodness, kiddo.
Do you do you do you want to talk more? I that kind of big pointy ears. It look like they stick out more now that I've got short hair.
You know, I didn't know today was your birthday.
I didn't tell anyone. I don't have a habit of telling anyone. Last year I spent my birthday in Bob's suitcase.
I don't know why I should be surprised. Bond just kind of like leans their head over Gille's again, and they're like, sure seems like it's been kind of a terrible birthday then.
Yeah, it could have been worse.
I mean, you've got me there.
Can I stay with you for a while?
Bond gives sort of a very soft, like, almost laugh, but more of a sigh. And kind of just gently runs their talons through Gille's hair. And just, you can stay with me as long as you want, Gille.
Gille just sort of nods and just kind of, okay, Gille. He's gonna lean up and kiss Bon on the cheek.
Goodness. It's very soft, very pale, small feathers. Bond kind of blinks and blinks and blinks at that. And you hear this sort of croaky, hissy noise from them. And they just shake their head and they give a little bit of a stronger laugh, and they squeeze Gille and sort of rub their face all over his, like a birdish kiss.
Yeah.
And Gille, there's just a lot of birdsong and rumbly, hissy, clicky noises coming from Bond for a second. And they just kind of pat Gille. And Gille Trebble, they say, after a second. Gille Trebble, are you telling me, Bon Arlo, that you have come to steal me away? You've come to abduct me. What a truly terrible and nefarious and clever villain you are.
If I abduct you, you mean I'm not going to leave your side, then yes.
I feel like you and Howl are going to get along so terribly. He's the tiefling who gave you such a stink eye.
Oh, I figured as much. There was a fairly tall elf who answered the door.
Yeah, that's Blair. Blair's an interesting character. There's a few other people around you might run into, but don't worry about them. I don't know about you, Gille, but I think I would very much like a nap. I haven't slept much in the last few days.
Gille, slowly nods. Uh, do you, want me to leave, or...
Bond just kind of like leans against Gil and like probably Gil can't see it is they like close their eyes and just kind of bird snoring noises.
I think as soon as the bird snoring noises comes, Gale's probably just going to look at the bed and then just kind of slowly lean so that Bon has room and can lay down.
Bond probably like it was very much the dramatically pretending to be asleep sort of thing. They probably just kind of like prop themselves up carefully so they don't squish their wings or sleep at an angle you're not supposed to with broken ribs. It's a very delicate process. And if Gil ends up not getting up or anything, they're probably gonna just sort of like sit, like lay beside him and essentially just kind of, you know, be there with him until he either falls asleep or they fall asleep or, you know, they'd both just quietly kind of doze.
Gil's not going to leave, so... And I don't know if he'll, like, completely fall asleep, per se. But, as the camera starts, leaving, the lights flick off. The lights in the room flick off.
And just, yep, the scene kind of goes dark.
Thank you for joining us.
Yay!
Yay!
Fucking turns into a puddle. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Thank you for listening.